Go. Welcome back to They Fly Now Show, episode 15. Today, we'll be discussing the failures of the Jedi Order by basically looking at analyzing all the eras and their shortcomings, and basically showing how we can analyze it and how they basically try to improve themselves during the era of the sequels. So, yeah. But before we begin the show, I would like to begin with a little, again, last time we did the whole story of Sisyphus. This time I want to start with a little quote reading, and then we'll bring everybody into the intro. So, I'll do it right now. Now that they're extinct, the Jedi romanticized, deified. But if you strip away the myth and look at the deeds, the legacy of the Jedi is failure. Hypocrisy, hubris. At the height of their power, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out. It was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the training and creation of Darth Vader.
They fly now! They fly now! They fly now!
We're live.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we are joined by two new guests and one returner, but he's here for the whole episode this time because last time Element was on, he had to leave a little bit early, but that's all right. So
I have to go in
thank
like
you guys
5
for
minutes.
joining us.
Just kidding.
So, Hereth, if you want to do our introduction here, and then get all of our just
Yeah.
mandatory stuff out of the way after that.
As per usual, it's just the normal questions of who are you, where can we find you, and who's your favorite Jedi, and why. So I'll start with
This goes for the chat too.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite Jedi and why?
I'll start with Char first.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Char J, and you can mainly find me on TikTok. That's where I only post content for now. Hopefully, in the future, I'll be able to go and flesh up my content. But yeah, the main place you can find me is at TikTok, and you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Char J. And my favorite Jedi might be a wild guess, but it's Luke Skywalker. But the reason why is because as growing up, when I watched his character develop in the original trilogy, I was just so amazed by how well he took the advice from Yoda and Obi-Wan, but he was like, "No, I'm different than that. I'm gonna be my own type of Jedi." And even he gets warned that he might fall to the dark side, but he always finds a way to resolve a conflict despite what everyone else thinks. And when we get to him in the sequel trilogy, he's just like old Ben, but he has a bit of a more fleshed out story. And I don't know, I've always loved Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can't go wrong with Luke.
And
then Elements, or we'll go Camilla next. Camilla, same thing with you. Same questions to you.
Awesome. Well, hello everyone. My name is Camilla. You can find me at Boricua Wookie. I also have a Star Wars narrative podcast. It's called Beings of the Galaxy. And each episode tells a different story of a different being in the galaxy and their place. And I have been lucky to have the amazing on the podcast. You can listen to his episode 7, Tattoos for Rebels. And yeah, you can listen to that wherever podcasts or things of the Galaxy pod. Jedi is just technically not a Jedi, but it will forever be Ahsoka as Rey. I love how she's just so dedicated. I've loved to see her growth through from we first met her in the beginning of Clone Wars to, and so yeah, no, Ahsoka is my number one. She's a role model and an icon, and she's such an embodiment about hope, and that's one of my favorite things about Star Wars. And so I love to see characters, and especially the female characters who embody hope.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can't go wrong with either of those two Jedi.
For sure.
And Element, same thing to you.
I am Pep, or Element7 on TikTok, _Element7 _. You can find me on Twitter at _Element7 _. And on Instagram _Element7 __. In my endeavor to keep everything as consistent across all socials as possible. I have a YouTube channel as well. It's just Element7S, number 7, letter S. And I have Diet in the Force every Saturday or Sunday if Chaco is being a douche. And we talk about all things current events in Star Wars. And I think this week's topic on Diet is going to be something a little bit different, not necessarily current events. I think we're just going to have a discussion on the Force itself as a machine and as like the concept. Still working out who I'm going to have on that. But I also have a fan fiction, an AU novel that I'm writing as well, called Echoes of the Past. It takes place 5 years after the Battle of Exegol, and you can get there from my website, seventhelement.net, and you click on my stories link, and you will find it there. And my favorite.
Are you close to finishing?
I'm close to finishing in outline form, but given how slow production has been for the art side of things, I've decided to release them preemptively in written form so people can read it. But we're close to releasing chapter 3 in the audio drama form.
Ooh.
Yeah. But my favorite Jedi. So I have one in Legends, and that is Satil Shan, and everyone knows this because she was Luke Skywalker before Luke Skywalker. At least not chronologically, but in concept, because she came from a powerful bloodline. She had battle meditation, and her story is much like Luke's in that she has to everyone just wants a piece of her because of that bloodline and lineage. And then she goes on to be the Grandmaster, and she's just amazing. My favorite character in canon has always been Yoda for the longest time, simply because I love learning in abstract and never having the answer shoved into my face. But then The Last Jedi propelled Luke into my favorite Jedi. Just seeing him in a place in his life where I could literally one-to-one relate to having things not go as planned and having to learn from the failures and learn from mistakes and decisions that you thought were right but weren't, and now you had to correct them. So that was when he became my favorite Jedi.
It's pretty deep, but yeah. Can't go wrong with Luke Skywalker. So you got 2 Luke Skywalkers, and my gosh, who did Camilla say? Why am I forgetting?
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. Yeah, sorry.
Or did she say Fern?
So no, she did not say Fern. But yeah, thanks everyone in the chat for joining us. Real quick shout outs. We got Podswan Podcast, which Char did not mention he co-hosts on.
I was thinking about it because at the very end we're gonna shout out again. I was like, yeah, I forgot to mention that I am a co-host on the Podwans Podcast. We are live every Thursday, and we cover Clone Wars.
And I will be on this Thursday, so that'll be awesome. Come check.
Sorry,
it out.
Luke, I love you.
Shout out to the Sod Man. Shout out to X-Core Gamer Skills. We got Aiden Talk Star Wars Topics. We got Elements Dyad, Darth Choco, X-Core Gamer Skills. And yeah, thank you guys all for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Also, announcements. We have our Level Up Lightsaber affiliate link up, and it's posted in my link tree on TikTok. So if you guys want to buy anything from Level Up Lightsaber, be sure to use that affiliate link, and it'll help. What we appreciate all of it. And our weekly shout out to Brooke at Far Far Away Factory. I just ordered some stuff a little while ago. I think last week I went over everything I got. But she makes some really awesome stuff. Yeah, and if you want some custom shoes or whatever, she's the person to go to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think missing anything else. I'm
I
trying to think.
think that's all the shout outs.
I think we're all good. So yeah. Hereth, you want to get us into High Republic? So how we're gonna break this down this week is we're gonna talk about the High Republic Jedi, and then we're gonna talk about the Jedi during the prequel era, solely those two, and then at the very end we're gonna compare the two and ultimately just talk about how or why the Jedi fell.
Yeah. Yeah. Starting with the High Republic and going that way. Starting off with Light of the Jedi and even into Rise and Storm and all the books, you see how the Jedi are different in their structure compared to the prequel trilogy. There are now 3 Grand Masters and that kind of stuff. So I was gonna ask, what are your guys' thoughts on how the Jedi are structured during the High Republic? Starting with Char.
Well, I think the way the High Republic is structured during the High Republic is because the Jedi are, it's just their morality. It's just because the High Republic era Jedi were focused more on peacekeeping and were very reluctant to use any violence. It was kind of their last resort, if anything. And when they would when violence came in, when they would be in a dispute, the last resort would be with their lightsabers, because it establishes a lot in the Light of the Jedi, that their lightsabers were barely ever touched. Yeah. And I like the fact that I'm forgetting the name of their I believe they're called vectors, right? They're vectors.
Yeah.
How they would only be activated from using a lightsaber as a key, and the way it would operate, it would not have an option for them to immediately eliminate the target they're after. It would. So, yeah, violence was a very small thing for them. As the prequel era, it was very different.
Yeah, and Camilla, if you're good.
Oh no. Okay, we'll just go to Element, because I think Camille might be having some technical difficulties, which is all right.
It happens.
Hopefully she gets back in here.
So the High Republic Jedi, as with all of the eras, they're products of their own circumstances, right? They come from as we know it, going from the Old Republic to the High Republic, they're at the height of their organization's power or influence or what have you, and it's because the Republic itself is at a tipping point where they're trying to expand into the Outer Rim and grow and include a whole bunch of other systems within the Republic. It's because of this that we see in the High Republic the shift that's happening, that's going to go into the prequel era. Because in the High Republic, when we start, the Jedi, as Char says, are just peacekeepers and servants of the light, and that's it. That's all they really care about, is their relationship with the Force. But then small cracks appear in Light of the Jedi and in the other books, where Chancellor Lina So has her I believe she's calling it wonders, or her achievements, I guess, the things that she wants to do. And one of them is, of course, making this huge one republic. And that's going to cause problems, underlying problems for the Jedi, because then that means they have to get more and more involved. And we see in Light of the Jedi these discussions between the council. They're having like, we are not a military, why are we getting more involved with the Republic? But as the Republic gets bigger and bigger, their involvement needs to get bigger and bigger. And so the difference there is that the Jedi found themselves like on a downward trend, with the Republic on an upward trend, and their relationship with the Force was strained. And so we see a lot of the Jedi in this era, in the High Republic era, being more independent thinkers, more free and liberal with their beliefs. And that starts to fade as the Republic gets bigger. Like Lena So, she's a great chancellor. She's has pure intentions, and she's actually real. Like, she's legit, right? She's not Palpatine in any way, shape, or form, but it is her ambitions in creating a larger Republic that creates the downward trend for the Jedi becoming more involved.
No, yeah, for sure. And kind of just to build off what Char said, and we want to kind of also, by the way, we want to make this as like conversational as possible. But to build off kind of what Char said about how the Jedi like don't want to kill, I forget which Jedi it is. In the battle in Valo in Rising Storm. Who was? I forget who it was. But someone in the Nile was like falling, and she saved him from falling and says, just because he's on the other side of this doesn't mean he deserves to die, or something like that. Like after the Nile was just trying to kill her. I forget which Jedi it was.
It might have been Indira.
Yeah, it was Indira. Yep. When they were up in the doing the everything above Valo, and then yeah, I just think it's really interesting how like they don't want to kill. That's like, or they don't want to use their lightsaber. That's like the very last of their that's like the last of what they want to do.
For sure.
And Camilla, same questions to you. Did you hear the questions?
I think she's just having trouble.
Oh, you're fine. Oh, you're all good. Okay, cool. All right, so it's just what are your thoughts on how the Jedi are structured during the High Republic era?
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving. I absolutely love the High Republic, and I'm so sorry, and I'm so sad so far. Some short stuff, and I. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I love that. I like individuality and celebrate individuality of the different Jedi and their strengths. They're different. And then they all are, like, you really see them connecting with the regular folks in the galaxy in a way that we haven't seen. Like, it's really fast how the Jedi are really out in the galaxy doing that. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, Camilla, so your internet's kind of cutting out really bad. You might want to try turning off your camera. That may help. You kind of were breaking up through the whole thing, and I feel really bad.
I did understand the gestalt of what she was trying to say, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't feel.
Yeah.
Is it
I think
better now? I turned off
basically the same. I meant better. Sorry.
my camera.
Yeah.
About normal.
Yeah, sounds way better.
Okay. All right. Do you want to repeat what you said? Not like the whole thing, but just kind of the main. Yes.
With my camera off.
Yeah, sounds 10 times better.
Okay, perfect. So I will just keep it off then. Sorry. Um, and I really love how it feels like we're not focused on Coruscant and staying on Coruscant, but really going.
I think you cut out again. Can anyone else hear her? Or in the chat, can anyone hear Camilla?
Partly.
Yeah.
Partly because she's cutting in and out. So we may.
Yeah.
Which is a
to
tragedy
do.
because I love Camilla and I really love what she has to say
Yes.
about this topic.
Agreed.
I know. Oh, this really stinks. Dang it.
Yeah.
Is she still in the call?
She's in the
Okay.
call.
So I think we may just have to move forward a little bit. And then we can get back to Camilla once her internet is better. We'll just keep kind of going around, and then we'll keep going to her, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But yeah, so with the High Republic Jedi, I think one of the main things is like Char was saying, that they're very, like, what's a good word to put it? Just very. Oh, you used a really good word, Char, to describe
said
the High Republic
reluctant.
Jedi.
They were reluctant to use
Yeah.
violence, and we're very focused on keeping the peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So their mindset is just very. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. But so, what are your guys' thoughts on how the Jedi handle attachments in the Jedi Order, in the High Republic? Because it's a lot different than what we see from the prequels, and later on we're gonna compare the two. But for right now, what are your guys' thoughts on how the Jedi handle attachments during the High Republic? And we'll go to Pep first.
Well, I think their view on attachments and in general dogma is lax in the High Republic. I think they're more respectful for just the reality of the world. Like a lot of times in the books, they're like, no, I mean, we have like attachments to each other. We're like master and Padawan. Like, it's, of course, that's a thing. But I think more or less the High Republic Jedi were more concerned about like starting families and getting married and having that stuff where it would affect the way you did your work as a Jedi and your duty when you're going out and traveling the galaxy and doing all these other things away from the family. So they were definitely aware that you had natural attachments. You formed bonds with your masters and your Padawans, and that that was going to be a thing, and that they would have natural measures to kind of like ease the burden of such things. Like the same thing goes with emotions. You know, they were very aware of having emotions, and you know, I did a video on this recently, like including a quote from Vernestra, which said you can be angry, but letting that anger and rage control your every single action, being the driving factor of your actions, is what is the dark side. So I mean, this is very different from the prequel era, and so this is why the High Republic is my favorite era, is because these Jedi are more aware of how the real world works.
Yeah, and sometimes two Padawans may feel a certain way about each other. Elzar, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, uh, stuff like that just never really happened in the prequel Jedi, as Cal says in the chat. And Char, same question to you.
So yeah, just going off of what Pep said, the High Republic. Am I hearing like an echo in the background, or I think I'm hearing like an echo or something.
I heard a meow.
Yeah.
I think that's my neighbors above me. They're sorry, I'm in a dorm room, so like they have
Sounds like they're
wooden
vacuuming.
chairs. No, they're dragging their chair like this and like forward. They have wooden
okay.
chairs. I'm
Okay.
sorry for that.
Yeah, so the High Republic Jedi and how they deal with attachments is, I wish the prequel era did this, because the Jedi in the prequel era made it clear that attachment is forbidden, which is one of the main reasons why the Order didn't work in that time. And like in The Rising Storm, the book heavily dives deep into the aspect of attachment, and that being connected and vulnerable and honest with every single one of the Jedi that you work with just made you stronger, and it allowed everyone to, flesh out and tell them your weaknesses and your failures, and that's what made the bonds between the Jedi stronger.
Yeah, and we see this in Elzar, as you guys mentioned. Elzar being like the antithesis of Anakin. Like, he just saying the words "I need help" is like the most important words you could ever speak as a Jedi who is being tempted by the dark side. But we also it kind of goes into the Clone Wars too, because when they're speaking of attachment, Anakin says to Obi-Wan, when he's talking about like Padme, that but Yoda forbids attachment, and Obi-Wan says, but he often leaves out the underpinnings of remorse. And that's a quote that I love from the Clone Wars, because it kind of tells you that there used to be a way of thinking that wasn't so, I'll say it, deranged from what it normally was.
Yeah, it's just like interesting that Yoda, who forbids attachments, also lived in the High Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems very like, well, you saw that it really wasn't that big of a deal, and it actually probably something that was good for the Jedi. But so then why would he ban that? That could probably be something that's going to be brought into play maybe later on in the High Republic, possibly. I could see that maybe.
Well, again, it goes back to products of their own circumstance, right? I think a lot of what happened to the Jedi in the prequel was 50-50 their decisions and being clouded by the dark side. Like, if you read Mace Windu, The Age of Rebellion, like, even when like Prosit Dibs is like speaking up about being at war, and he like, this is not what he signed up for, Mace Windu is like, none of us want this, but this is what the world is like now. We are at war, and we have to save as many people as we can, and this is like this is the most correct path in a sea of paths that are just incorrect. So like, they're trapped. It's like being between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at like attachments in the High Republic with all of Elzar's dark side visions, and with the prologue of Light of the Jedi, and they continue on into Rising Storm. The Jedi are willing to work with him and figure out what's wrong, and they have therapy droids, Hereth? I think you were mentioning. We were talking about this.
Yeah, and Out of the
night.
Shadows.
Yeah, I haven't read Out of the Shadows yet, but spoilers are okay. But yeah, like therapy droids are something that you need, because these Jedi, though they're Jedi and they're supposed to be this god-like person that will just save the day, they're still human. And everyone has problems, even the Jedi, and then just to ignore them is just not the way to go. And you have to have that sense of therapy. Everyone needs therapy.
Yeah, and I sent the panel to Hereth if you want to like read what Mace is saying to process it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow.
that's just one thing that I think the High Republic Jedi just do really well, is just dealing with, and not just turning away from it, or just saying, oh, those visions didn't happen. No, like, yes, those visions happened, but let's figure out why they happened and how we can maybe stop them from happening, like in the next another time.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, differing the differences of, like, again, attachments, which I think, like, we're all predicting is going to come to a head either, like, within the next phase or within this wave. Obviously, let's transition to something a little bit different in the High Republic. What are you guys' like general thoughts on like the training of younglings and Padawans during this pivotal time in the galaxy when the Jedi are at their prime? Char.
Well, I think it's interesting because when I look at the difference between the prequel era Jedi and the High Republic Jedi, their training methods are not too different, but they're different enough to where it's noticeable. Because there's I don't know if Hereth, I'm assuming maybe Element has. I'm assuming you guys read the High Republic Adventures comics.
I have not been planning on to.
Okay.
I've read a few issues, but not all of them. But it's fine.
Okay. Well, I was gonna go in depth about Zine Morala and her training story, and how it was essentially the same thing that happened with Anakin, and how he was too old, and as he became a Jedi, he was filled with anger, with emotional struggles with the past events with their families, and the High Republic Jedi found a way to be able to control her abilities, while in the prequel era they either thought Anakin's he has great fear flowing through him, there's a lot of conflict that's within him, or dump him entirely. But in the High Republic, they found another way to make it work, which I find it to be so fascinating.
I agree. It's an absolutely amazing story arc, because now we get a Force user who uses blasters instead of like a Force user who is denied training and
Wow.
Yeah, like Zine Morala, they don't accept her, much like Anakin, but they do offer to help her control like her Force sensitivity. It's not like kind of throwing out somebody who's Force sensitive and letting them kind of figure it all out themselves. So it's a great comic run, and I love Zine, just because Force users and blasters doesn't mix, but it's cool nonetheless. And then we have like half of that with Ty Yorick, so it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I don't want to compare
Well,
this.
it's funny you say
sorry.
like learning.
Oh, you go, Carter. We're sorry.
I was just gonna say, funny you say like learning to do it yourself. We look at Bell and Loden. In Light of the Jedi, whenever Bell cannot figure out how to fall the correct way, and instead of Loden just saving him every time, he'll stop him with like 2 inches from the ground, and Bell's like, ah, and then finally, like, just I don't know, that that's probably one of my favorite parts of Light of the Jedi is Bell's journey to fall. Well, not like metaphorically fall, but like literally falling, and then finally he figures it out whenever it matters most, to save the little girl. And I just think like that whole arc of Loden teaching Bell is like what's so good about the High Republic Jedi.
What I appreciate the most about the High Republic is that we actually do get to learn with the Padawans. You know, in the prequel era and everything after Order 66, there's not much much room, or there's not much narrative there for people to be learning. I mean, there's Kanan and Ezra, but he's literally learning on the job. There's no like curriculum. It's just, roll with the punches. But then we're like learning with Vernestra, who is literally too young to be a Jedi Knight, and she's aware of this 100%. And she's going through her own doubts. And then we have Imri, who is dealing with all like being an empath, and all of these stories that have Padawans going through temptation, going through their emotions and learning to control them. It really is a breath of fresh air to be able to be with them as they train, versus like, one episode of Clone Wars where we see the younglings get their crystals and fight Hondo.
Yeah.
And fight Hondo. Yeah. Which, do we have anything in the High Republic right now that says that they go to Ilum? I'm guessing they do. Do they still go to Ilum to get their crystals? Do we see that?
I think it's been mentioned once.
Oh.
Okay.
They've also mentioned Tython a couple of times. I don't know if Ilum has become like the gathering site, like yet mainly at this time.
I know.
That'd be
Because remember, during the High Republic, Ilum is in the outer rim, and during the High Republic.
Oh, so they may have not even got there yet.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, and Hereth, what were you gonna say before I kind of cut you off?
No, it was gonna be
Talking
something
about
off topic, but I was gonna go back to what Element said about the blasters, because it reminds me of that unfinished arc of the Clone Wars when Anakin and Obi-Wan go to Utapau, and Anakin uses blasters for the first time, and like start shooting out. That's what I instantly thought of. Like that's how unusual that is.
But Zine is full-time Force user with blasters.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Huh. Yeah, that's really interesting. And then like another thing with the High Republic, which you don't really see much in the prequels, is like how they view the Force. If you guys want to kind of just talk about how the different High Republic Jedi, everyone views the Force kind of a different way. So if you kind of just talk about that, Char, if you want to go first.
Well, every single Jedi, in particular, like Avar, Elzar, Bell, they all see the Force as a thing, not as much as like they see it. For example, Avar sees it as a symphony, and Elzar sees it as an ocean, and how they describe it, it's like, oh, that's how they see the Force. But in the like the prequel era, it's just very simple. It's like it's an energy field created by all living things, and the midichlorians and how they would work. I don't think they would flesh out how they would see the Force, but in the High Republic, we're introduced to how the different Jedi see and view the Force, which makes it that much more interesting, and how they wield it and how they use it, how they train with it. And I think it's just a beautiful aspect that was added to Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean,
sure.
I think the circumstances of the prequels and the originals and then the sequels just doesn't lend to them ever broaching the topic anyway. I think they have bigger fish to fry. They have the Clone Wars, and we rarely found an opportunity for like the Jedi to sit around the campfire and be like, how do you see the Force? But we did see a depiction of it in The Mandalorian, where we could, I guess, assume or infer from that Grogu sees the Force as wishy-washy green lines.
Oh, thought about that.
Yeah, and then the High Republic also has the bearish vow, and how the Jedi are just super connected with the Force, and that if they ever hinder off of a beaten path, especially with what happens to Des Raiden and Into the Dark, spoilers for Into the Dark,
Yeah.
yeah, he takes on the bearish vow to revitalize that trauma that he went through and to rejoice with the Force. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and also bring up like way seekers.
mhm.
That's something that we don't see at all during the prequel Jedi.
I think that
someone
was
who just
I think that was done to assuage or sate the fan fiction of Great Jedi.
Yeah.
You know, when people started talking to Matt Martin and Pablo Hidalgo about Great Jedi, and they're like, "No, this is a fan thing. It doesn't really jive with with how the Force works." And they were like, "Okay, well, what about people who operate independently? Like they don't listen to the Jedi Council." They were like, "Let's just give them a name." And they're way seekers. But going back to Grogu really quickly, I think it's interesting to think that that's how their species sees the Force, because of what Yoda says. Luminous beings are we. So he sees the Force as luminous green waves like Grogu does, and it would be pretty cool to imagine that in canon, it was my head canon at least, that their species sees the Force like that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
oh yeah,
I like
that'd be
that.
really- Yeah, like go back to what you said earlier about we never get to see just Jedi sit around a campfire and talk about how they view the Force, and like you wonder, do they all think of it the same way, or does Anakin have a certain way that he views the Force and Obi-Wan has a different way? Because I feel like, not to get too much into them, I just feel like they probably all view it in a very similar way. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think every Jedi in the Clone Wars and the prequel era still has individualistic ways of how they see the Force, but at the same time, I don't think they had a reason to proselytize about it just because they were busy, you know.
Yeah.
True. And maybe that was just something that they wanted to do in the High Republic, was make that a very prominent statement that, or how the Jedi view the Force. And Hereth, are you about to say something? I cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say, this is just my headcanon for things, because I always thought that, like, again, I like the idea that like the Jedi are suppressing their own Force use, because I think that's an interesting theory element. But I've always kind of like weirdly headcanoned like the reason why they, like, as the eras go on, because again we're like 200 years, I assume like every phase will jump like 50 years or so, like something like we'll keep jumping into the future and getting new characters and new like characters, or like some old characters back. But anyway, I think like every time we jump forward, we'll see like those suppressed Force ceilings go down, and then we'll kind of get to like midi-chlorians, you know, like the final phase of like how they found out that and why they think that is how you view the Force and that kind of stuff. That's how I always kind of theorize about that.
But do they necessarily? I don't think they don't know about midi-chlorians during the High Republic. I just don't know if they acknowledge them as much. You know what I mean? 'Cause I feel like unless it's stated that they don't know what they are, but
I mean, we see the very beginnings of like the back to technology in High Republic, so it's safe to assume that the technology hasn't gone there where they're like actively scanning blood. I think they back then, at least in the 200 years, they were just like, they're Force sensitive, let's train them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And is there anything you guys want to touch on with the High Republic before we kind of move on to the prequel Jedi?
I think I'm good. Yeah. I think we can move on.
All right. So, moving into
Oh wait,
the Jedi. Oh,
Yep. Hold up. Flip the button.
Camilla says, Jorah Malley has my favorite perspective on light side of the Force. Does the action I'm about to take bring more light to the galaxy?
Oh, yeah. That's that's actually a really interesting quote.
that's a very yeah.
Great quote. Sorry for not doing a Camilla impression, Cal, but I can read that as Nicolas Cage, though, if you want me to.
And then in the chat, so the Sodman says, I think it could be also the same for everyone, but it's the way that is interpreted on how they on how open to the Force they are. Fair part of the Light Jedi was seeing how they see the Force. What a great idea! I think that's because I think that's because of the openness to feelings. And that, and now kind of shift gears into the prequel Jedi, so our second kind of section here. And obviously, we have the fall of the Jedi. I mean, spoiler if you haven't seen any of Star Wars ever. So, what do you guys think caused the Jedi to fall the most? And this is, like, personally, what do you think if you had to pick one thing? Now, though there's dozens, hundreds of reasons that they fell, but what was your number one reason you think the Jedi fell the most? And let's go to Char first.
Well, the main reason, in my opinion, why the Jedi fell was because they just forgot what it meant to be a Jedi. Like, the Jedi are supposed to be spiritual monks who are in control of their surroundings. Instead, their surroundings controlled them, essentially. And, well, for example, like, the High Republic Jedi were connected and so engaged with the people of the Republic, and the public viewed them as icons. As if you've seen in some episodes of the Clone Wars, specifically, I don't know, in the one season where Syndralic is at the front steps with all the people rallying on the steps of the Jedi Temple, and Trace Martez talking about how it's better to be on level 1313 than to be in part of the politics in the war. Because the High Republic Jedi were so connected with everyone. And then the prequel Jedi were just so out of their way and so focused on politics and the war instead of the people of the Republic. And I think just the reason of them straying away from what it meant to be a Jedi was why they fell.
Well, there's going to be a little bit of discourse here because I think the main reason they fell was Palpatine.
Yeah.
Palpatine.
Papa Palps.
Palpatine.
In the way that Char says that they were in a situation where they're supposed to be in control of their surroundings, but their surroundings controlled them. But I think the perpetrator of their surroundings was Palpatine.
Oh, absolutely.
He created a situation in which the Jedi, first of all, were clouded by the dark side, and they didn't know it. But they created a galaxy situation where they had to adhere to what was going on. Like they no longer had to decide between, oh, what should we do Friday? Should we help these people on this planet, or should we just meditate? Instead, they had to actually make a decision about going to war that Palpatine orchestrated. And so this is why most of the time I'll say, like, the fall of the Jedi Order, they were victims of their circumstances, and the circumstances were perpetrated by Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
Did they make incorrect decisions? Yes, absolutely they did, and they were clouded by the dark side. And but that doesn't change the circumstances which led them to make those decisions. And then if we think about, like, the individuals within the Jedi Order, again, I'm going to, like, quote, like, Prosit Dibs, who voiced his dissent towards being like in a war and fighting and being involved in the Republic. And even in the High Republic, when they had their first council meeting about Lina So and her movement with the One Republic, they were like, we're not military, we're not like soldiers, like we shouldn't be a part of this. And so, like, there are individuals within the Jedi Order that for sure were aware of what was going on, but of course, in the organized fashion, like the top down hierarchy made decisions that led to their downfall, and they were the wrong decisions. And I do want to quote Mace Windu from that comic where Prosit Dibs was like, this is all a lie, the council is lying, this is just a power grab. And Mace Windu is like, this is the option that is laid before us. We did not want this. But if I must pick up a weapon to protect what I know to be right, then so be it. We do not train with lightsabers for them to simply adorn our waists. Such is the will of the Force. And so, given any other circumstances, I don't think Mace Windu would ever say that.
Yeah. I would never see Mace Windu saying that on the screen, at least. I can never see him saying, yeah, we just, we're not meant to, be monks. We're here to take action. And yeah. No, it doesn't seem very Windu-like.
Like if you think about it, if you're driven into a corner and you have to make like an ultimatum choice.
Yeah.
And both of those choices are garbage. You still have to make it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Despite your feelings, you just gotta go with your gut and see where it takes you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
or what Chaco says, just let the Jesus take the wheel, or
Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah.
Jesus take the wheel. There you go. That's all I can say is copyright.
Soda Man also has a point. They build a temple on a Sith shrine, and so it was their hubris that they could control it.
Yeah.
As well.
The High Republic kind of canonized that because then Into the Dark they talk about that. It was never brought up in canon before that.
Yeah. But that also has been. Oh.
Again, count number 1 if anyone was keeping track. Or number 2. Sorry, my bad. Number 2. Keep track.
It could just be his adapter.
Could be. Like Brooke says, the garbage will do.
Yes, you
You can hear.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry. So that's count number 2. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But so yeah, the Jedi they built their temple over the Sith shrine, and that happened before the High Republic. So I think that's just something that the Jedi are kind of rooted in, is like that. Oh, we're just better than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're being pushed. They're being pushed into the situation they find themselves in the prequels. The High Republic Jedi are vastly different. They're still centered on top of a Sith shrine, but then in like Into the Dark, like they try to siphon energy from statues, and like they unlock something here and there, but then they go to war with the Nile, and then they go to war with the Drengir, and just the situation is leading on rails, holding their hand, leading them to fall. And that's the tragedy of this, of having the High Republic as your favorite era, because those are the Jedi. Those are they're the people that you want the Jedi to be. But then the same thing with watching the prequels, having watched the originals first, you see Anakin, you're like, oh man, he's cool. But he's also Darth Vader, and I know where he's going. So it's like, this Jedi Order is cool, but they're also the prequel Jedi, so I know where they're going.
It's like the Titanic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like you don't know.
It's like you want them to be okay, but it's not going to be okay.
Exactly.
It's that I'm fine, but I'm not really fine.
Yeah. I feel
they ask how you are, you just have to say that you're fine, but you're not fine.
yeah.
Exactly.
Again, I was gonna say, I feel like the one thing I can give to the High Republic overall, again, I never saying in the prequels, but I feel like Cavan Scott and Charles Soule are the masters of tension. Like, they know, you're dreading something that's coming, even though it's way off in the future. They just know how to, press the right buttons and, get you on the edge of your seat. That's how I always called Light of the Jedi. Throughout reading it, I was just on the edge of my seat. Rising Storm, same way.
Yeah, I would largely agree with that sentiment. I think Claudia Gray, Daniel Jose Older, and Ireland run clinics on character work. But building a world of tension, definitely Cavan Scott. And I'm not going to mention Charles Soule because he still hasn't confirmed whether it's Markian or Marchion.
That debate will never end.
Yeah, it'll never end. But
It's never ending.
see, I was team Marchion, but I feel like I'm kind of shifting to Marquion.
I'm still Team Marcia.
I don't know.
Well, Camilla says the Galactic Republic Jedi were for sure an impossible situation. They would have been disconnected no matter if they stayed out of the war or joined the war. And I kind of this kind of like relevant to a conversation I was having with another person who was trying to blame the light side for inspiring apathy and inaction and causing the rise of the Sith. And I just wanted to tell them, like, you don't blame apathy for evil, you blame evil for being evil. The Sith were going to conquer and rise regardless of the Jedi being there or not. So it's not inaction. You can criticize inaction. You can say, hey, why didn't you do this? But you can't blame the inaction on something else happening. Like, someone can commit a murder next door, but then the police show up to my door and like, you didn't save him. Like, am I arrested now? Like, what's going on? So yeah.
Yeah, it's like, to say the Jedi, even if they didn't like say they just kind of stayed out of the Clone Wars, I feel like then they would have just been super passive, and the same exact thing would have happened because they didn't know Palpatine was there.
Yeah. Do you think if they stayed out of the war, that Palpatine wouldn't still have painted them as treasonous for not helping?
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's just Palpatine in general. Either way, he was gonna win that.
Yeah.
No matter what they did, he was gonna win at the end of the day.
Unless they somehow found out Palpatine was a Sith Lord, like miles before anything happened. But that, again, it's like impossible.
It makes me that just gives me a picture in my mind, like somebody in the prequel movies just like, somehow Palpatine is a Sith Lord.
It's like,
I just imagine like Poe Dameron's like grandfather just showing up a Coruscant.
Yeah.
or it's like before, like 20 years before the prequels, and Palpatine and Plagueis are doing their thing, and then some Jedi just like walks in on them, and they just like look at each other and like, and then they just like kill him right away.
A Jedi
only
and Sith
fives
walk
lived.
into a bar, and the Sith's like, "You here to stop me, fam?" And the Jedi's like, "Nah." And the Sith's like, "Okay, I'm still gonna do it."
I'm still gonna kill you. That's not how this works.
As Sodman says, if fives only lived. Yeah.
Mm.
'Cause- But here's the thing with that, and so I think I kind of view fives and Dooku the same way. That say fives were lived, or say Dooku right before he gets his head chopped off goes, Palpatine's a Sith Lord. Who's gonna believe him? You know, like no one would have believed Dooku.
Well, that's the thing. I got another comment today saying that didn't Dooku play both sides because he gave the information to Obi-Wan? I was like, no, he's literally sowing doubt within the Order, because the Order can't like, come to terms with Dooku. Like they just said in a meeting, Dooku can't do that. He is an upstanding citizen. Someone then Dooku is feeding this nonsense about a Sith Lord. It's just everything was according to Palpatine's design.
Yeah, and building on your point, Element, like, again, it wasn't until Maul said something that Obi-Wan was like, wait a minute. And he started, like, playing backtrack and started going back to his, like, Attack of the Clones, started, like, putting all the pieces together. It took Maul saying something to click all these pieces together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so funny too, because I saw a meme the other day. It was about Dooku telling Obi-Wan about how the Republic is now under control of the Dark Lord of the Sith, and and then once Order 66 happens and everything, it was like, I wonder if Obi-Wan has sleepless nights thinking about what Dooku said on Jesus.
I just imagine a scene in Kenobi. He wakes up out of like his like shimmer. He's like, and it's just Christopher Lee talking to him.
What if that happens in the Kenobi show? Like, it's just him waking up. He's like, all you hear is, "What if I told you the Republic was under control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?" And then he's just like, "I don't buy it." And he just tears.
I made that meme like Oh, this would have had to have been probably May, June, probably April, May. I made the meme. It was like, I forget what sound it was, but then it was like, it was the video, or it was I played the clip of Dooku saying the Republic is now under control of Dark Lord of the Sith, and then it was like the Republic, in fact, was in control, was being controlled by the Dark Lord of the Sith.
Somehow.
Yeah, and then your TikTok harder of when Cody was like, "Oh, by the way, I think he'll be needing this." And then,
Yeah, the
you're
same
like,
sound.
In
It was
fact,
like,
Obi-Wan did need his lightsaber.
I love how like in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, which is in canon, but I love how like there's a minute where like Cody hands it to him. He's like, I just wish I didn't do that. He's like, did I really have to hand him back my lightsaber?
The novelizations are canon where they line up with the movie, but since that's not in the movie, yeah, it's not canon.
Yeah.
Now he says, "By the way, I don't think he'll be needing this." He wields it against
then
them,
throws it, then throws it into the lake.
and then Grievous. Oh,
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna
you
say.
know the
that-
joke. You know.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the ultimate meme would have Grievous just crawling from the dead.
We're seeing the birth of a new meme here. The somehow meme.
The somehow meme.
That's like too memey. Like, I don't know. Just him chuck it behind him and then Grievous goes.
Just him crawling like.
But interesting you met Dooku, because Dooku leaving the Order, they just kind of like, okay, you can go. I don't like, I just don't know how to feel about that. He's like, yeah, I want to go become the Count, and they're like, okay, see you then.
Well, we see this in the High Republic and throughout Star Wars. People leave. It's not a big deal, and people aren't expelled. Like, okay, I'm quoting the Mace Windu comic a lot just because I reread it recently. But like, Prasa Dibbs was being treasonous and like speaking up against the council, and they freaking exiled him to the library.
The library.
They were like,
go book?
"You are now confined to the library. Read books and reflect on what you've done."
I just imagine.
You have to listen to a 5-hour Jocasta Nu lecture.
Oh no!
I'd sit in that. I would attend that lecture.
I was gonna make a joke. He's just reading all the prophecies and being like, "Huh, interesting."
All of the prophecies.
All of the
yes.
prophecies. But anyways, we got a little off topic. Obviously, we talked about a lot of like the Jedi and like what led to their fall, but kind of like gaming, it's like interesting. Like, I know a lot of us have talked about like Star Wars what if in the past, like what we would do with that. But I wanted to ask the question of, if you could change like one thing with the prequel era Jedi, what would it be and why? Char, to you first, as usual.
I would just say their attitude, essentially, because when you are introduced to them in The Phantom Menace, the way they're talking to Qui-Gon and Anakin, I'm just sitting here thinking, like, why are they like this? And then especially when the first Sith that they've encountered in 1,000 years, they only send 2 Jedi to go get them while they all sit down in a circle. Like, you could have brought a whole military of Jedi to finish.
You could have had the 501st.
You could have saved Qui-Gon. You could have saved Anakin, aka future Darth Vader. You could have saved everything.
That was
But
like
their attitude
mistake, right?
hurts them, huh?
That was their mistake too, right? Because like they didn't even admit it was a Sith. They were like,
Yeah.
okay, go back to Naboo and find out who this
'Cause-
Dark Warrior is. Like, they're bad.
Yeah, just like with Dooku, like how you said earlier, Pap. They just didn't believe it.
Yeah.
They're just so engulfed with what the Republic has become that they're just like, oh, just go deal with it. Go deal with it. You know, it doesn't take all of us. Just go do it. This will be light work. But no, it eventually messed them up really bad.
Yeah.
The first
And-
Sith Lord in 1,000 years, and you send 2 Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, like, realistically, though, I can see that playing out in their minds and being like, that's enough. But then they didn't know it was Maul.
Yeah.
As the audience, we're like, that's Maul. Send more people. But as the Jedi, they're like, oh, this is like a Sith. If they're back, I guess we'll send our Jedi. Because we have these situations all the time in the prequels. Sith are our speciality. And then he gets, like, rocked.
Yeah.
In the next frame.
Yeah, I was like, did you,
the
not,
last
did, you
time-
not, did you not see what happened the last movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, does Obi-Wan completely forget? Like, he says it is a speciality, but then gets taken down like 5 seconds in Attack the Clones and in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I was gonna say jokingly, another thing I love about the whole like idea of like why didn't they send more Jedi to take on Maul? Why did they bring Anakin with them? That's the thing I just never understood. We have the potential chosen one. Let's just let him go with the Sith Lord, fight them, the Dark Warrior. Though he'll be fine.
I think at that point, Qui-Gon had declared or concluded he was going to train him no matter what.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering the chronology of that movie. Yeah, they said
Yeah.
they said he's not to be trained, and Qui-Gon's like, "I'll train him." Obi-Wan's ready for his trials, and then they went off to Naboo. So I think, as irresponsible as it is, that's why they brought him.
Yeah. But even Qui-Gon fought him earlier in the movie. And he's like, I mean, Qui-Gon got on the ship and was like, oh my gosh, that thing is insane. Like, okay, we'll still only bring 2. I the rationale doesn't make a whole lot of sense here.
It does. Now, the High Republic creates a nice little dynamic here because it does kind of make sense that they're a little bit reluctant to accept that it's a Sith because Markian isn't a Sith, had a lightsaber.
Yeah.
So most of their skirmishes were with non-Sith.
Yeah. Just because you're a dark side user
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're a Sith. They probably were like, oh, it's probably just some like random Darksider, or if the Sith are back, it's probably just some like assassin that they sent to go fight them. They probably didn't think it was like a Sith Lord.
A legitimate Sith Lord, yeah. Also, Char said he'll be back in a few minutes. So, yeah. Just let the audience know. He said he'll be back in a few. No big deal. But
Yeah.
I just want to read Soda Man's chat comment in full. Somehow Dooku was telling me the truth.
Yeah, the more I read about Dooku, because I finished Dooku Jedi Lost a few months ago, the more I really like Dooku.
Yeah.
I just think he's really fascinating. I don't know.
Do you think that's why the video that I did on Dooku's eyes went over so much? I spent months exiled in the library, and now I'm out there with Dooku's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving into like the we already kind of like touched upon like wait, Elmi, you didn't answer the question for if you could change one thing. I think we just kind of stayed on like the sending the Sith.
We just kind of got start talking. Yeah.
I'd probably kill Ki-Adi-Mundi. Find a way to remove him from the council, because I think in a lot of the decisions, like the trial with Ahsoka, the testing of Anakin, a lot of these like really weird decisions that the council did in that era was like Ki-Adi-Mundi being really dumb. So I'm not gonna kill him personally, but I would find a way to write his death in some way, shape, or form to change that.
I just imagine Element like watching Revenge of the Sith, and it gets to Order 66 and Ki-Adi-Mundi. You're like, good.
Earlier than that.
I know, but still, I was thinking the joke.
Kill him during the Clone Wars.
I feel like if like a rogue Vintian came in through the window as he was saying, your thoughts
Joy
dwell on
tackle.
your mother,
Yeah.
and then lost Kiari Mundi we have.
3 brain looking ass.
I love
Yeah, like you have that many brains and you still can't make good decisions. I mean, come on, man. Come on.
I mean, we have consensus in the chat. Everybody hates him.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees? Yeah, just shut up. Just shut up, Kiati. No one likes you.
And also the funny thing,
AJ's entered the chat.
funny thing with that conversation, they were going towards figuring out Palpatine, and then Kiadi Mundi comes in and cuts them off, and then gets them thinking about the war. Think about that.
Just remove him from situations and see how much better things play out. That's all.
Now, do you think it would have changed if... So say they were to have, whenever they went to go confront Palpatine, do you think it would have made a difference if they brought 5 more Jedi?
Well, they
No.
couldn't.
Because I feel like it... No, like, I'm just saying, hypothetically. Say they brought the whole order
That's
against Palpatine. Do you think Palpatine still would have won?
Oh, of course not.
Palpatine would have seen
because
all
the whole order includes the one person or the 2 people that could have destroyed him, Mace and Yoda. If Mace and Yoda are there alone, they destroy Palpatine. That's just a given.
Yeah.
So if they had the whole order
Oh,
there,
yeah.
of course, like people would be like, you know, throwing in their random slashes, but it would be Mace and Yoda that's, you know, doing most of the work.
I just imagine Palpatine seeing Yoda and Mace and being like, I'm out here. It just like runs through, like slices the window and just
Jumps out
jumps
the
in.
window.
I mean,
But like,
yeah.
there's like weird, like little like cartoons people make of people just like beating each other with like a lightsaber. It was like the whole order just walks in around Palpatine and they just like start just whacking their lightsabers at the person.
That's honestly one of my least favorite scenes in Star Wars, simply because Kit Fisto is that much better of a duelist
Yeah.
Yeah.
than just going
Just.
I if it was Mace, if it was Mace, an actual Kit Fisto duel like with Palpatine, they could have stood a chance. But you know, I digress. It was
And Hunk Fisto.
Palpatine lost to Mace, and then had to beg Anakin to save him, and he ran from Yoda. And these things are not on accident. Those were the 2 people he feared the most. Except for Qui-Gon. He feared Qui-Gon because he was a maverick thinker and he would cause the Jedi Order to think outside of their complacency. But Sidious feared Mace and Yoda the most as combatants.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
They go into like details about that during the Secrets of the Sith book. Like Palpatine's main thing was like they were so caught up in their ways that I can make them fall.
Camilla,
Oh,
Guys,
her
I
laptop's charged.
broken laptop under my bed, and I was able. It like the screen is cracked, but it worked. So I guess I'm here now.
And we hear you perfectly.
Let's go.
Camilla's
Excellent.
back.
But I have been watching in the YouTube chat on my phone. Like, I wish I could be there. So anyway,
Let's
Here I
go.
am.
Yeah.
All right, so
I
same
mean, I
question.
would give the floor to Camilla completely now for the next 3 hours.
Oh, for sure.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. But please, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Please continue with what you guys are talking about.
No. Same question to you. If you had to change one thing about the Jedi during the prequels, what would you change?
Well, it's what I mentioned in the chat, that like the lack of communication that the Jedi Order had in the prequels is staggering. The amount of times that if they had just talked to each other, that things could have been prevented. Like, there are truly too many examples to count. Like, but if they were just honest with each other and just had like open conversations with each other rather than thinking that they needed suppress emotions, suppress what they were feeling and not be honest and prioritize other things over communication. Like, truly, so many things could have been solved if they just talked to each other and just were honest and open. So, like, communication is the number one thing I would change about the prequel Jedi, for sure.
It's like the Khalid song, "Can we just talk?"
Literally, though. Actually.
Talk about where we're going.
Yeah, because
Yeah, because that would literally eliminate so many problems. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Hereth.
no, you're good. Yeah, I got Carter hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I was gonna say. That would eliminate so many problems, and we'll get to that later with when we're comparing the two.
I mean, and that's why in the High Republic we get so many instances of people being tempted, but then they're helped because they seek it out. So, like even before Elzar does that thing on Valo, he's talking actively with Stellan about, you know, these kind of brushes with the dark side that he's experiencing, and he's just like, you know, I gotta chill out, and if it happens, I will turn myself in immediately and get help. And then he's like, okay, it happened, I need help.
Yeah,
and
I
even
know.
with Vernestra and Imri, when Imri falls and they have their little duel, she knows what she needs to do, like disarm him and then bring him back. Like, the way that they approach these things is no longer "you are lost," as Obi-Wan said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think chopping your Padawan into a chicken nugget is not the best way to return them to the light.
I never thought about that before.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean-
that's why I love the. I know that there's often the comparison that's brought up between Stellan and Elzar with the Obi-Wan and Anakin, and it feels like that is fully done on purpose, because you see the way that Stellan, when Elzar, first off, Elzar is honest and is like, I'm struggling, help me, and Stellan is, okay, I'm gonna go take you on we're gonna go on a little retreat. I'm gonna go hang out and get you connected back to the Force. But then we have so many moments with Anakin and Obi-Wan where, first off, Anakin isn't honest with Obi-Wan. And then Obi-Wan is also just like, his answers are never exactly what Anakin needs, because it goes back, they're not communicating in the way that they need to be. And so I know you talked about this on High Ground last week, Element, about how, like, when the Yoda therapy training session, Anakin is not honest completely with Yoda, so Yoda can only give like what he can give with somebody who's being honest. And so it feels the same way with Anakin and Obi-Wan. If Anakin had just been honest, and if they were able to communicate better, then who knows, things might have been different. But that's why I really love to see that interaction between Elzar and Stellan in Rising Storm.
Yeah.
And if Anakin were honest, Obi-Wan would have very, very different approaches in dealing with him. But like, since he's not, and since he's always kind of putting on a character front or a facade in front of Obi-Wan just like continues like, you are very wise, Anakin. Like, he's like, you know, enabling him almost. Just continue with your whatever you're doing. It's all right with me, you know.
Oh, like their entire conversation when they're in the hallway after the council asks Anakin to spy on Chancellor Palpatine, and Anakin's like, "Why are you asking me about doing this?" And Obi-Wan is like, "The council is asking you." I'm just like, tell him you don't agree with the council. Like,
Yeah.
you tell Ahsoka the council isn't always right. Tell Ahsoka you don't, like, be explicit. That's what I just want him to be more explicit about how he exactly feels. And every time I watch it, I hope for a different ending, and I don't get it because it's already been filmed.
And then he goes to Palpatine. He's like, "Oh, they asked you to spy on me, didn't they?" And he's like,
Somehow we field feelings.
"Yep."
I'll give you
And
that.
Anakin just has, and Anakin just has all these bottled up feelings that just if he was honest, they wouldn't have just bottled up and ready to explode if he was just honest.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately probably lays fault on the Jedi Order not being accepting of those types of feelings.
Yeah, it is compounded for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's the more I've been thinking about Anakin the past few months, the more I like really relate with Anakin and the things that he's going through. And it's like, because I'm also a very emotional person and can be ruled by my emotions. And so it's like, those emotions were always going to come out, and Anakin was always going to need somewhere to express these emotions, someone to confide in with these kinds of emotions. And unfortunately, Jedi Order was not the people who should have been there for him in a way for him to be able to express those emotions was the Jedi Order, and they didn't create an environment where he felt comfortable to do that. And the person that did was the person who was manipulating him, and unfortunately, that was Palpatine. And so, it's just I guess that's also another piece of like the tragedy of the Jedi Order and Anakin and how that he didn't have the place where he could go express and feel like he could be himself and feel comfortable with sharing those emotions that were going to come out ended up being Palpatine. And so it was like super easy for Palpatine to manipulate him, which just makes me so sad.
Yeah. And like, thinking about how compounded the situation is, like, I think the Jedi Order, different people, different masters approaching Anakin in different ways could have created that environment. But again, it's a compounded situation. So if you have your best friend, an old man, your best friend on Coruscant, Palpatine, telling you that the Jedi don't want to help you, the Jedi wouldn't isn't being honest with you, and so that turns into Anakin not being honest with the Jedi, and all they have to work with is just like these fleeting emotions that are indicators of the dark side, and that's how they approach this problem. And so I think that's why it's so important that if Qui-Gon lived, it would have been a different story.
Yeah,
because Qui-Gon was the perfect person to train Anakin in these thoughts, because he had those thoughts too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think.
But of course, old man says Jedi are wrong, and then Anakin proceeds to treat the Jedi Order as if they're wrong, and the Jedi Order treats Anakin as if he's wrong, and so everybody's like doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, it makes me think back to Master and Apprentice a little bit. Like, spoilers, but not really, because it's in like the beginning chapters. Like, they say they assigned Obi-Wan to Qui-Gon because Obi-Wan was rebellious, so they gave him another rebellious master to like help ground him in his like setting. I feel like Anakin's the same way. Anakin needed a rogue master to ground him in his ruling, because that's exactly what he needed.
Point. Let's make Obi-Wan the perfect Jedi by pairing him with the Jedi that doesn't want to be a Jedi.
Yeah, and
honesty's the best policy, man. That's all I gotta say.
And it works because Obi-Wan is the consummate Jedi, but he ended up being Anakin's master. So now Anakin doesn't want to be a Jedi.
Yeah,
I guess that's how it works,
Yeah. Kind of moving forward.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, my mic.
Good?
My mic was cutting in and out for a second. It's weird. Like, my mic keeps like flickering on the port, but this isn't the point. I'm probably gonna get a cable soon. So,
we just have mic problems.
Mic problems are just the persistent thing today. So, yep. Going forward, speaking of Anakin, let's move to a similar thing of a problem with the prequel era, but it's more of a Clone Wars problem. Ahsoka's trial, and how like this kind of like, again, it ties back into Camilla's point about communication. Camilla, going to you because I know you're a huge Ahsoka fan. What are your thoughts on how the Jedi kind of like botched the trial?
My goodness, I revisited a little bit yesterday and was rewatching the scene where she is in front of the Jedi, and they're like, "We believe you to have committed these crimes. We're kicking you out of the order. and now you have to go stand in front of a military tribunal, which is like, why would you make a child stand in front of this military? It's just, when you think about it, it's like, why on earth would you do this to this child? That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think that is truly such a turning point in the Clone Wars for us to really grasp, like, the Jedi are blinded by their dogmatic views, by politics, by being involved in the politics and in the military and all of that side of it, that this Padawan who we know as an audience and have been trained to see as an audience as like a great Jedi and a great person and someone who's like so full of light and hope and love and compassion, that we're watching this arc knowing, no, she is completely innocent. How could you all think that she's not innocent? And I think that's the most frustrating piece of it, to like watch all of these masters and people sitting like on this council, Yoda and Plo Koon, especially like Plo Koon is like, I can't believe that she would do it, but it's like, why didn't you stop this happening? Obi-Wan, why didn't you stop this happening? Yoda, why didn't you stop this happening? I know like Yoda deals with that in his arc in season 6. But anyway, I feel like I'm just getting passionate and upset now. But all of it to say is that it is just, I'm really happy Ahsoka left the Order, because I think it was the smart thing for her to do. And there are a lot of things that happened for good in the galaxy because of that decision that she made to leave the Order, such as how she had packed a Trace and Rafa, and then how she went on to start Fulcrum and become part of the rebellion. But at the same time, it's like that the entire trial of Ahsoka is like, you see it through her eyes and really see that how these people who raised her have betrayed her. Barriss wasn't the only one who betrayed Ahsoka. Her family betrayed her, and it's just like, it makes me so sad. So sad.
And you know, this is another situation that would have been improved with the removal of Ki-Adi Mundi.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But this is another pitfall of the Jedi being so involved in the Republic and being beholden to the Chancellor, with, you know, the saying of innocent until proven guilty doesn't really reflect here. And the Jedi should have done everything in their power to protect Ahsoka and to have faith in her. Granted, they're not going to be like, oh, you're completely innocent, we have all the proof in the world. They don't have as much information as the audience does, but that doesn't mean that they have to kind of ostracize her and like put her in front of like a tribunal at her age. Like they should have helped her as much as possible, as much as Anakin was helping her.
Yeah, and like Brooke says in the chat, I was just going to mention this. No one seemed to trust the Force during Ahsoka's trial. Like, it is framed very well. I mean, like, if you're, say, like a clone, you're like, oh, obviously Ahsoka did this, because there's like no evidence against it, unless Barriss admitted what she did. But for some reason, the Jedi didn't seem to trust the Force, which just doesn't. That's not right.
We see that
when you. Sorry, you go. You're the guest.
we see where it leads to in season 6. I mean, even Yoda, who's hearing voices from Qui-Gon, the council is like, well, no, this could be the dark side. So I mean, like their circumstances have made them question everything, including the callings of the Force. From Yoda, who's freaking 800 years old, almost 900. He's been a paragon of light for almost 9 centuries, and he's hearing the voice of an old master, and they're like, I think it's time for that Yoda is about to fall to the dark side. And I'm like, what's wrong with you people? This was, of course, in response to Brooke, how no one trusted the Force. And I think it's like, you know, they were so they were so disillusioned by the Force and where it led them thus far that they were like, well, I guess we can't trust. I think at this point too, right? They had already concluded that the dark side was clouding their vision.
Yeah, and the arc ends with Yoda basically being like, you know what, we're gonna lose the war, but I'm gonna let like everything play out, and we're gonna trust the Force for once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have a video about this that I don't believe did well, but I want everyone to know again. This was all Yoda's plan. In season 6, after he learns oneness with the Force, he says, "Open to us a path remains, unknown to the Sith is, and through this path, victory we may yet find. Not victory in the Clone Wars, but victory for all time." And then it goes into Obi-Wan in A New Hope saying, "Strike me down and I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine." And then it goes on to The Rise of Skywalker, where everyone and their mothers who became one with the Force helped Rey defeat Palpatine for all time. And I think when Yoda finally realized that they can all become one with the Force and be a part of the living Force, which is what the Jedi draw upon their power from, which is the living Force, I think Yoda realized that in order for them to have victory, it's not to win in life, but to help from death. I don't have a better way to put it, but yeah, he had planned everyone to be a part of that final moment as one with the Force.
Yeah.
Chills. I just got chills.
That's so good. Yeah, it's like you never see the Jedi dealing with you never see the Jedi and the Force working together. You never even really see the Force when you think about it in the Clone Wars. Like you see it being used, of course, when they're fighting, but that moment, that's why I love that arc in season 6, the Yoda arc at the end of season 6 so much, because it's like the first time that image of all of the Jedi surrounding him and connecting with him as they're trying to connect to the Force is so powerful, because it's like we haven't seen this really from the Galactic Republic Jedi. You never see them asking the Force and like letting the Force guide them and taking a moment to make decisions through the Force the way that sometimes you see in the books in the High Republic Jedi. The Jedi are taking some time to meditate, and maybe it's just we just don't see it because that's just the choices that writers are making in the show. But it's like you don't ever see the Jedi connecting with the Force in the way that you do in that arc. And it's like, maybe if they had, who knows what things might have been different if it seemed that they were more connected to the Force in that way, making their decisions.
And I came to that theory or conclusion because a lot of people were criticizing the "I am all of the Jedi" scene, and I'm like, this kind of makes sense because they become one with the Force, and she's drawing upon the living Force, and if they are a part of that Force, they are indeed by proxy all with her.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Like Luke said,
Yoda's master plan.
Hate on that scene.
yeah. Also, like
How can
Luke.
you hate on that scene? I mean, that scene is so good.
I don't
That's
even
like
think
one of the best
Yoda.
scenes in Star Wars.
I don't even think Yoda was supposed to die at like 900. I think he could have lived to like 1500, to be honest. But then like Luke showed up again. He's like, oh no, not this kid.
He's still holding out hope that like Leia will show up. And when he sees Luke, he's like, no, I'm done with this.
I'm just gonna go be one with the Force, and somehow I'll help them in the future.
He's like, oh, not this little brat boy who reminds me of Anakin. Ugh, I'm gonna go lie in Qui-Gon's cloak and just sit here and die.
I mean, even I don't know if you guys have read Fakpov for Empire Strikes Back.
Mhm.
Even Obi-Wan is like, why couldn't it have been Leia?
So funny. It's so funny. That's like that doesn't relate to this at all. So I'm not going to go into my like 5 hour long essay. But I've thought about like if Leia had become a Jedi before, and I'm deeply against her becoming a Jedi because I feel like the galaxy would have fallen apart so much faster if she was a Jedi and not in the Republic in the Senate.
Yeah.
And then kind of moving forward, speaking of Yoda and exile, do you guys think that the Jedi should have done anything different instead of going to exile after they fell? Do you think they could have done anything different?
I mean, knowing what we know now, as audience members with omnipotent or omniscient information, this all had to happen. And I did a video about why Anakin didn't warn everybody about Exegol, and somebody commented, "This is exactly why Doctor Strange said, if I tell you what happens, it's not going to happen." And that was a great comment because I firmly believe that all of this, as tragic as it was, had to have happened to lead up to the final moment and final second of the Rise of Skywalker. Through him, balance will be restored. Not because of him, or well, not him. Anakin will restore balance, but through him, through his children, and his children training Rey, and all of that, balance was restored.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't change anything except kill Adi Mundi.
Kill Adi Mundi. We're just consistent with that.
And Quinlan Voss. Not kill Quinlan Voss, but
Okay.
I was like, Element
But just
one.
Quinlan Voss, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, not all of them went into exile, It's Yoda and Obi-Wan. And Yoda, I would say, is the most extreme example because he's just got his little swamp friends. But Obi-Wan is still on Tatooine. He's still around, people. And look forward to seeing how he interacts with said people when Obi-Wan Kenobi comes out. But then you've got, I think what I love is to see how the Padawans that we know of so far, the ones who survived, how they stepped up to the plate. And
running Spice.
Yeah. wait, I'm so sorry. You cut out. What did you say, Kanan what?
Running Spice.
Exactly. He stepped up to the plate. No, but eventually, he had to find his. They each had to kind of find their own ways. But the way that they each stepped up to the plate in a way and still found what their place looks like in the galaxy without the Order and not exiling themselves from humanity. And Ahsoka's my favorite example of her quote in Clone Wars: when you find people in my life, when you find people who need your help, you help them no matter what. And you really see that and her carry that out through all of her life. And so she doesn't stay in exile. She makes sure to get involved eventually in the cause because that's what she believes is right. And then Kanan comes to that realization. And I mean, Cal, I guess we don't really have enough information on Cal's story. I have not played it. I've only watched Fallen Order, but yeah, no. So I agree. I would not change anything about it because I think Yoda really is the only one who properly goes into exile, but all of the others find a way to help in a way.
Yeah, and Yoda is the only one that has a very tragic exile.
Yeah.
Because if you read Age of Rebellion Yoda, and it goes through his time on Dagobah, he is wrought with shame and the burden of failure of losing his whole order. And he's down in the dumps, just to find a euphemism. He's down in the dumps.
Literally.
And he gets trapped in underneath rubble, and he's like, this is probably what I deserve. And I'm just like, no, Yoda, stop. Whereas everyone else, Obi-Wan has a mission. He's in hiding, exile, but he's on a mission to protect Luke. Ahsoka has a mission. Everyone has their missions and their causes to fight for, and Yoda is the only one really that's just I deserve this. I deserve to be alone.
Yeah.
Wow. I just think of that Rebels quote with Yoda. He's like, I forget, it's like what thousands of Jedi they were, and they all like died, and it's because of war. That's what I'm thinking of. Like that, that adds so much layers to that scene of Yoda falling in the rubble. I've never viewed Yoda in that sense because like I've never seen that. I've read that before with Yoda. That's such an interesting character level of Yoda. And that's what I hope to see in Kenobi with Obi-Wan. I want to see Obi-Wan like how Luke was in Last Jedi. I want to see Luke just like Obi-Wan just broken by the Order, like because like he had hit it fell. Yes, he has the mission of Luke, but like still he's even 10 years later he still has like this guilt written all over him. I want to see that Obi-Wan in Kenobi.
One thing I think that's interesting, not like but besides the Jedi who went in complete exile, but it forced these Jedi to go from their narrow kind of minded view of things, and it forced them to get creative in the ways that they use the Force and how to like actually live a life. Like we see Ahsoka becoming like a mechanic and learning how to use like the skills she learned, and Kanan doing Kanan stuff, running spice and whatever. So
Being a ladies' man.
yes, and I just think it's really interesting to actually see these Jedi during this time become more like us and learning and having problems and setbacks and whatever, and just trying to get through these. Whereas in the prequels, yes, they did obviously have a lot of problems, but just their view of things is just a lot different.
Fun fact: there's a street in Malibu called Kanan Doom.
I saw that.
And I'm wondering if there's another street called Caleb Jarrus.
Caleb Jarrus.
Yes, I remember I was like driving down from Malibu home, and I like saw it, and I pulled over because I needed to take a sec. I was like, is this real life? Yeah,
Is this just fantasy?
Carter, you know what we must do when we go to Celebration? We must visit the Kanan Dune when we go to Celebration. Come on, it's it's a legal requirement now.
That's a long drive from SD, man. Or where's the Celebration? Anaheim?
Anaheim. Yeah, Anaheim Convention Center.
Still a pretty far drive from Malibu.
I'll run there.
But we need to find Caleb Jarrus. The street.
No, you know who we need to find? Ezra Bridger. The man's been gone for far too long. We need to find him. All right?
Every day, Carter.
I'm sick of this crap.
Or we need someone named Ezra to be crossing a lot of bridges.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
That Ezra is a bridger.
That's someone who builds bridges.
Yeah, that's it.
What's up, Ezra Bridger?
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
that's where he went. He's building the Golden Gate Bridge. Makes sense.
Carter's gonna be like spinning a lightsaber until Ezra Bridger is found.
I mean, there is this is a side note, but like that's funny because whenever they find Ezra, there could be a world where he is bridging something. Whenever they find him from wherever he is, if he creates a bridge, I don't know. But there is a world where he provides a bridge to some other place and his knowledge of
Ezra bridge between bridges.
World between
bridges.
Exactly.
That's one thing that I'm like I'm gonna probably cry when I see Ezra live action, but like it's kind of nervous for it because it's just him and Thrawn, and one of them's gonna have to budge into like concave into the other one, and I feel like Thrawn has a lot more willpower than Ezra, and I don't know. I think we could see Ezra change a lot, and I'm kind of scared for it.
I think under Thrawn, Ezra becomes a better person.
Yeah, I can see like
I
a.
hope
Have you read the Thrawn books?
I am about 3/4 of the way through the first one. Maybe not 3/4, probably about 5/8.
Okay.
That's kind of oddly specific, but probably around there.
I know what
Well,
Elvin's thinking.
I'll just say ambiguously, he's not a bad guy.
Okay. It makes you feel better. I need to finish this.
I feel
Like, we're not gonna see the first episode of Ahsoka and it's Ezra and Thrawn. Thrawn's like, "You are a bad boy," and starts. How dare you take me with the Purgles?
There's just like a whimpering dog in the corner.
yeah. What
I mean, they're gonna be like having it out. You know, they're gonna fight in the first episode. It's like, where are we? And Thrawn's like, I'm looking at the art around, and I can. Where we are is, in fact, nowhere we've been before. And then Ezra's just like, I miss Sabine.
Oh. Even though she's like 3 years older than
Dang
me,
it, man.
and it's kind of, dude. When Kieran told me that in a VC, he was like, "Oh, Sabine's like 3 years older than Ezra." I was like, "What?" I had to like do a double take for a second.
That
Don't matter.
Ezra was trying to slide into Sabine's DMs many times.
Yes.
There's like a clip where Ezra, he like just like comes in the screen. He's like, "Hey there, Sabine." He has like his arm on the side. You're like, "Just stop, please stop." He's like,
Her DMs were only open to Ketsu, though. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like whenever she checked her DMs and it was from Ezra, it always had that thing. They're requesting to message you. Will you accept?
Or like she has Ezra saved in her phone, but or she doesn't have him saved. She just has like his like number, and then it's the maybe Ezra thing.
yeah.
She never actually saved his contact info.
or
Yeah.
or like I just imagine like a Ghost Crew Discord server, and it's DMs to open to people in the server is disabled, and like Ezra keeps trying to like friend request her.
Or
Just
it's
that.
like Ezra
just
and then in
to-
parentheses, brother. He's like, dang it.
He's in the sibling
But
chat.
back,
Sibling chat.
but back to the Jedi. So, I think we kind of covered both High Republic and prequels very well. And we honestly covered a lot of the stuff that me and Hereth wanted to cover in the like comparing the two. But to kind of switch gears in comparing the two, how do you think Elzar Mann compares to Anakin? Obviously, Elzar being in the High Republic and Elzar being in. Wait, did I say Anakin in the High Republic?
Yes, you said Anakin in the High Republic. This is
Anakin in the prequels and Elzar in the High Republic. Like, how do they kind of compare against one another? And do you think that they're meant to be kind of like a parallel in a way?
I think it's definitely a
Um,
cautionary tale.
yeah.
Like, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
Agreed. Elzar is more of a ladies' man than Anakin is, though.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, 100%.
That's not even close.
So that
like
does not
to-
compare at all.
I like to joke that Elzar is playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, and he has the flirt option all the time. But man, is that guy smooth compared to Anakin, who is just a choir boy.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with choir boys, all right? I, in fact, was one.
I just imagine.
Oh well, I mean, just compared to Elzar at least.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with choir boys.
Okay, Carter.
I do really quickly want to respond to Brooks. Ezra and Thrawn are on a farm somewhere, just being two bros farming. I'm just like picturing in my mind, like Ezra's like, my eggplants keep on coming out watery, and then Thrawn's like, did you sweat through your eggplants before putting them in the pan? Just two
That-
bros.
That's the content. That's the content we need. You know, like we just need Thrawn and Ezra day in the life of
Yeah.
Thrawn and Ezra.
Stop telling me how to cook eggplants.
Stop telling me. And then do you guys think we're going to see a small shift from like mentality going from High Republic Jedi to Jedi we see in the prequels? Like, do you think we're gonna see that slowly throughout the waves of the High Republic?
Yeah, I think it's looking at the cover art of that very upsetting art that StarWars.com put on Instagram with the Starlight Beacon and Who Will Survive. I felt attacked by that and I didn't appreciate it.
Oh.
But so it's like the title of the book, Fallen Star. What's the fallen star? Probably Starlight Beacon. And so in my mind, it's thinking, okay, so this happens, and then the Jedi are, okay, what do we have to do to combat whatever is happening in the book Fallen Star and in the last wave? And it's going to be like a series of choices that they're going to have to make. Like, oh, we need to make this choice to the Nile has done all of these horrible things and what we've been doing hasn't worked. So let's try this one little different thing. And then slowly by slowly that we're seeing things change. And it feels like this is the catalyst for them to really start making choices that we will see affect how they get to where they are in the Galactic Republic.
Yeah, we're seeing the cracks form right now.
Yeah.
And if you read Star Wars 2020, Leia talks about the Starlight Beacon, past tense.
Well, it has to crash.
I mean, does it have to crash?
It could just fall in space, I guess.
But wouldn't like the Jedi use it if it?
I'm just saying the
crashed?
way she says it, like the Republic used to have a Starlight Beacon,
Mm.
and I'm just like, fallen star. I personally felt attacked too.
It has to be.
I made it like 20 times worse because I made I don't know if you guys seen The Walking Dead. I made an edit where I put the High Republic on Negan's face when he's like walking up and like picking the people who's gonna die. I was like, this is exactly what the writers are doing.
They better not.
They're like, okay, this person...
Who's okay? Well, question for the for just like just everyone. Who's Glenn? Who's the one Jedi that they better not touch?
Bell. It's
Bell.
It's easy.
Please
Bell.
no, Bell. That man's been through so much. He can't take any more.
I'm gonna be controversial and say it's not Bell, it's Ember.
You think
No.
you think Ember goes? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying Ember is Gwen.
No.
I'm saying Ember.
Oh,
They better not touch Ember.
They
Okay.
can't touch Ember.
No, they
They
can't.
can't.
If you
Like,
put
you
the two of them
literally
together, you're suddenly you're like, oh, Bell can go. Don't touch Ember.
oh man. I just until I know that Gunji survived, if anything happens to Buryaga, I will lose my mind. I'm just it's a perfect. But so I don't think I've been thinking about this. I'm like, who are we gonna lose? Who will survive? And I could also see Nib not surviving, and then Burry
Yeah, I think
being
Nib.
greatly affected by that.
It'll be a big part in Bury if. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but the trio is not safe. Avar, Stellan, and Elza are absolutely not safe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of them goes.
I think Stellan could go.
The narrative is definitely leading to the fall, or at least showing the cracks. If the end of the High Republic is followed by the TV show Acolyte, and it's not like sunshine and rainbows, then it's a tragic end for the High Republic Jedi.
Yeah, but I think Elzar is safe.
Yeah.
I don't think Elzar could get outed. I don't think Avar could either.
I can see like Elzar like having a redemption arc and then like kind of get like a heroic sacrifice.
I think my running theory right now is that Avar will be cornered, and Elzar sacrifices himself for her.
Man. Claudia, you better not.
Yeah,
Better
I'm
not.
also in the camp of where I think it could be Elzar solely because we really don't, from like a marketing standpoint, we really don't have much visual stuff on Elzar, and so it's like, why don't we, if he's like being positioned as being really important, but we haven't like seen him physically in a lot of things,
That's
but we've seen some other characters, then that makes me wonder. But then also there could be a reason why they're doing that. I don't know. I was just thinking about that, but I feel like Elzar could go as his like final, sacrificing himself for someone else. But then also but we also have so many moments in Star Wars where like people are falling to the dark side and falling into darkness and then get redeemed and die. So it's like, if
You don't
that
need
is
that again. Yeah.
exactly.
Something different.
But for sure, that's a great
I just
point.
feel-
I did not realize that. Like Rising Storm, it's Stellan, Bell, and Ty, and then in the comics where they do have like when they're talking to Elzar, he's not on the panels.
Yeah,
I
and
just
it
don't
feels
want to
like
draw him.
right. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. If there's on. I feel like these people have already proven themselves being very, very smart. So there has to be a reason why we don't have a lot of visual stuff about Elzar. And I don't know if it's because he's gone or because he becomes something else.
Wait, Luke just said Vernestra is getting got? No.
Absolutely not.
Don't touch her.
Emery's gonna get got. That's the one I'm worried
Don't
about.
touch him either.
I don't want them to.
We're just gonna
Any of
be
the
Star
Padawans.
Wars and stay killing Padawans. Like, well, come on, leave them
Brooke,
alone for an era, please.
Brooke, I think your theory is a little bit too out there. I don't think Yoda's safe.
Really? Yoda's safe? No.
No, I don't think so.
I just don't want the younglings to die again, or the Padawans.
Not again.
The Padawans died in
again.
Attack of the Clones, and then the younglings in Revenge.
Yeah, we're just having such a good time when I open the High Republic Adventures, just hanging out with all of these fun Padawans, and they're baking and they're just laughing and burning water over here. So I can't imagine them losing any of those Padawans. I will be very upset.
I do think they are safe for the most part because they are primarily the point of interest for junior novels and young readers, and without them, they don't have those.
It's true. We love to theorize based on like marketing. That's always a good way to go.
But yeah, that's like in theorize about Mando. Like, from a marketing standpoint, does it make sense for Grogu never to show up again?
No.
No. He's gonna show up again. He has to.
I mean,
He doesn't.
I loosely think that Grogu's just gonna they're gonna land, and he's like, I don't really like it here. Can you take me back to Din? I think that's it. I think at least he's not there for long.
Oh my god. I don't know. When it comes to that, I think he'll be like on a hologram. I don't think we'll physically see Grogu at the end. I think we'll just get like calls and like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to the Jedi, for like this last section of the comparing the two, the main thing that I want to talk about and like tie in is the Republic overall and the Chancellors and how that kind of like has a weird like effect on the Council and like how like when you have a corrupt person in power, how does that affect the Jedi Order?
Well, just outright, the fact that Lena is legit and has no ill intentions whatsoever changes the entire kind of like context around the circumstances they find themselves in. She is trying to expand and like be inclusive with the whole galaxy in this republic of hers, but the result of that is that it paints a target on the Republic, and then you've got the Drengr and the Nile, who are pushing the Jedi into being involved, whereas Palpatine is creating purposefully a circumstance in which the Jedi have to be involved. So like the main difference is that the Jedi want to help Lena, and then in the prequels they're forced into their situation.
Huh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at it.
And it feels like the Republic and Lena and all of those folks respect the Jedi. It feels like there's a different kind of respect for them when the Jedi are like, if the Jedi were to say, oh, we don't want to get involved, or we can't get involved because of this, the Republic and Lena, they would be more understanding, it feels like, than not just Palpatine, but even the senators in the Galactic Republic. But it absolutely comes down to like the circumstances that they find themselves in. And it's like, and I also think that it's not necessarily full out war in the High Republic in the way that it is in the Galactic Republic. So I think they're able to maybe justify getting involved in a way that maybe the Jedi and the Galactic Republic aren't able to. Like their thought process can be a little different, because it's like, oh, we know who officially is on the bad side. But in the Galactic Republic, it's like, oh, these people were part of the Republic at one point, and then they're not part of the Republic. We have heroes on both sides. You see that come up a lot throughout. And so the thought process is definitely different in how they're getting involved because of who the enemy is versus the Nile versus the Separatists and where they're coming from, and their different ideologies. But yeah, it definitely feels like the High Republic and Lena are more respectful of the Jedi and their decisions because they're able to be more respected because of the circumstances. They're not in like a full galactic war conflict.
Yeah. And Lena respects their sovereignty. Like they're not a sovereign nation, but she respects their autonomy. And and more so the difference in their enemy is the difference in who they're fighting for. With the war, sure, there are people who are like innocent bystanders and you'll have to fight for them, but they're largely fighting for the Republic. In the High Republic, people are like civilians and people all around the galaxy are like victimized by the Great Disaster and the Nile raiding them, and they're largely put to action to save just these people out in the Outer Rim who are being attacked and victimized. So they're not fighting the Nile and the Drengr to fight a war. They're fighting them off to protect these small people and not a Republic. The Republic is just, by proxy being attacked because of Markion, but it's quite a stark difference between High Republic and the prequels where they're fighting to protect the small person versus they're just fighting to protect the Republic.
Yeah. And again, like the reason why I brought this up is because like I remember a lot of the times in the prequel trilogy when something gets brought up, they're like, "Oh, we must get approval of the Senate. We must do this. We must do like." In the High Republic, they're just like, "Let's just go do it." Like they don't need the Republic to give them permission. They can just go act on their own. Yes, they're connected to the Republic, but they're not like tied to them so much that they need to do something. While with the prequel era, they're like, "We need to get approval. Like we can't act unless they gave us all a yes." So I find that like again that the stark contrast between the two eras is so interesting. That's why I brought this question up. Again, that's just kind of like my rationale behind that.
Yeah, I don't think in the High Republic none of the Jedi would stand for Lena So appointing someone to the council.
Yeah.
It's the biggest difference.
Like just thinking about that, like that's such just a like why would they let that happen? It just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. Like you're just gonna listen to him because he told you to?
That's the situation they're in.
Yeah.
One of my favorite examples of like evidence for why the Jedi were too involved in politics and all of that didn't let them be like the Jedi of the High Republic is in the Law List when Obi-Wan is going to Yoda and our favorite Jedi, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and asking them, like, I need to go help Satine, this is what's going on. And they're like, well, Mandalore chose to be neutral, so you can't, sorry. And it's like the High Republic Jedi wouldn't think twice or have to deal with any of that and just be like, oh, these people are in trouble, let's go help them. Even if they're this random world on the frontier that Chancellor So hasn't brought into the part of the Republic, we're still going to help them. It doesn't matter if they're in the Republic or they're out of the Republic. But in Clone Wars, it's like Obi-Wan had to go solo and alone to go help Satine and help Mandalore because, this world decided to be neutral even though they needed help. And it ended badly for Satine and people in Mandalore.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like what Char said a while ago when we asked, what do you think caused the Jedi to fall the most? I'm not sure if you heard Camilla, but he was like, Char said that they're not being Jedi. They're oh crap. What did he say exactly?
They're supposed to be
He said, like,
peacekeepers, in control of their surroundings, but the surroundings are controlling them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just not being what a Jedi's supposed to be. They're
They became embroiled with the Republic, dependent on the Republic, and as Camilla mentions, like going to help the small people. Like in this time, they have outposts, and the reason Loden got captured was because they were just chilling. On Elfrona, they, have a 9-egg stew, and just having a great time. And like a distress signal comes in and they answer it. It's not a matter of does this benefit the Republic or not. They were just like, oh my gosh, someone's calling, they need their help. And they went to help. Whereas like, there's protocol and chain of command and all this nonsense in the prequels that the Jedi are beholden to.
Yeah.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we kind of covered it all. I think that's a really good note to end it on. Do you guys have anything else to kind of touch on or add that we haven't already?
I'm just going to give the floor
All
to
right.
Camilla.
I think we should at this point. Just there.
It's all good. I'm my closing thought. Happy I was able to find another laptop to be able to pop on for this back half of this conversation. But no, it's like the Jedi we stand the High Republic Jedi. If anybody in the chat or watching hasn't read anything in the High Republic, stop what you're doing and go read it. Because it's
We hate Ki-Adi-Mundi.
We hate Ki-Adi-Mundi as well. That is another headline of this conversation. Elzar Man is the man. Another headline of the conversation. but yeah, no, it's the Jedi in the Galactic Republic clearly see that they had lost their way from the High Republic, but also it's not that their fault that they were wiped out. It was Palpatine all along. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of benefit from reading the High Republic and then comparing the two Jedi, because there's a lot you can learn and a lot you can gain in understanding. And I'm a big fan of when you're actively reading fantasy and sci-fi and all of these to really pull the messages that the writers are trying to communicate and the themes they're trying to share with you. And I think that, yeah, this is no different to be able to look at compare these two Jedi orders, same Jedi order, just different time periods, and to see what the text and what the stories and what the themes have to teach you about the different themes and stuff. So read the High Republic if you haven't yet, but also, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, these are all amazing points. We thank you guys so much for coming on. So to kind of conclude things out, our little conclusion questions here. With rumors of a Rey and Finn show, how do you think Rey is going to tackle the new Jedi Order? And then who are you? Where can we find you? Let's go to Pep first.
Well, I am writing how she tackled this with her Skywalker order. It is no longer Jedi. If you are Force sensitive and you come to train with her, you are a Skywalker. That is a title, not a name anymore. And I think that's largely a return to form, to be honest. She's just going to be out there training people and, listening for the cries for help. And she's going to help people along with Finn and maybe some other characters in my book. But you read it. But yeah, it's just a return to just being peacekeepers and listening to the will of the Force and being there to be able to protect the small person whenever they need it. Being the voice for the voiceless. That's how I think she's going to approach it. You can find me on Twitter and TikTok _element7_ YouTube element7s. Diet in the Forces every Saturday or Sunday if Chaco's being a douche, as I said. Saturdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. I think it will be Saturday, this Saturday, and we're going to talk about the Force as a whole. Just the entirety of the Force, the dark side, the light side, all of the in-betweens, the factions.
The Gray Jedi.
They do not exist.
We are going to talk about them as well. We're going to talk about the Gen Sarai. We're going to talk about the Jedi. We're going to talk about the Daibendu. We're going to talk about everything that is the Force and why there's so much misinformation going around.
Oh, that's gonna be a great episode.
That's gonna be really good.
Mm-hmm. And you can go to my website, seventhelement.net, to get the link to read Echoes of the Past, which is the book that covers 5 years after Exegol. And you can also listen to Beings of the Galaxy, episode 7.
Hey!
There you go. If you want to know what it was like to be a tattoo artist during the Rebellion and the Empire, stuff like that, you should listen to episode 7, Beings of the Galaxy.
This is not at all what
Yeah,
I
Camilla,
thought
same
it was going to be.
Yes, fantastic voice acting. It was great.
Oh.
And Camilla, same questions to you.
Yes. I think a lot about the fact that Jedi were supposed to be peacekeepers, and part of me wonders if the title peacekeeper should be different and it should be peacemaker, because in my mind peacemaker is more active than a peacekeeper. And peacekeeper implies that there's a peace existing to keep, but what if that peace doesn't exist? And so, and I would love to see that with Rey and like you were saying, Element, going out and helping the people that need it and bringing peace to people and making peace in places in the galaxy where peace doesn't exist. And I think it'd be interesting too, like, what is the state? Because we talked a lot about that, the Jedi Order, and what the Jedi Order looks like in reflection to the circumstances and the state of the galaxy around them. So what's the state of the galaxy at the time that Rey is training folks, and how is she, becoming more of a peacemaker than a peacekeeper? And then also being more inclusive, because there are a lot of people that we see throughout Star Wars who are attuned to the Force, but are not Force sensitive. And I think it would be beautiful to see those people being involved in rebuilding the Order in whatever way that Rey rebuilds it. People like, you have like Lyra in there, Jin's mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's so attuned to the Force. And that can only benefit, like, to maybe have more perspectives of different kinds of people who see the Force in different ways. But yeah, more of peacemaking rather than peacekeeping, because the galaxy is a crazy place and it needs peace. So, but you can find me again on TikTok at Boricua Wiki, and then my Star Wars Narrative podcast, Beings of the Galaxy, wherever pods are streaming, and then Instagram at Beings of the Galaxy Pod. And that is me.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Then Hereth, where can we find you?
Yeah.
Say it every time.
We say it every stream, but we gotta say it again because rules, I guess. You can find me at Hereth Productions on TikTok and Hereth Productions on YouTube. But basically, my YouTube's now They Fly Now. So yeah.
There you go.
They can find me on TikTok at Cartoony2 down here. And then my YouTube is just this. Also on YouTube, we're approaching 100 subscribers.
Very nice.
Hey,
Nice.
it's a small milestone, but we're almost there. So
A milestone
hit that
nonetheless.
hit that subscribe button if you wouldn't mind. But yeah, you can find me there, and then I'll be on later this week. I'll be on the Podswamp podcast and on High Ground later on, so you can also find me there. And then shout out to some people on the chat. Shout out to Sodman. Shout out to Serena, who's my girlfriend. Thanks for coming. Shout.
The way you said it, it's just like, it's not like, oh, it's my girlfriend. It's like, oh, it's my girlfriend.
The implied nuisance in your tone.
Okay. I did not mean it like that.
Fix it.
No, it's my
She's her girlfriend.
She's my girlfriend. Woo! Woo! Shout out to Malik Frierson, who has his own podcast, Hot's a Podcast, which is really good. It's not Star Wars. They kind of touch on Star Wars once in a while, but it's more of just like a calm, hang out, chill, good thing to just put on in the car and laugh to. So definitely go check out that. They're like right now doing a whole spooky season thing. So definitely want to go check out Hot's a Podcast. Shout out to Brooke, like we said at the beginning, with Far Far Away Factory, who is amazing. So shout out to them. Shout out to Podswamp Podcast. Shout out. We got Brian with the beer, Charlie Johnson, who I know couldn't kind of finish the episode with us, but it's all right. You can find him at CharCharJ or on the Podswamp Podcast. Shout out to Cal Fourier, X-Core Gamer Skills, I know hopped in. Brian with the beard.
Okay, you pulled an element. You said his name
Barr.
twice.
What?
Oh, that's not. I mean, I say it intentionally 4 times.
Did I say
Four
it
times.
again?
4 times.
I did not say it 4 times.
No, we're talking
No,
about
I
element.
say it intentionally 4 times.
You're like Brian with the beard, Brian with the bread beard, Brian with the bread.
That is him. Brian with the beard, Brian with the bread, Brian with the beard bread, Brian with the bread beard.
And then the guests are just like, "What are you talking about?"
That's like,
No,
that's
they-
like
oh,
a
they-
tongue twister. You could do like that's like an acting warm up.
But somehow
Jack
I
Brody. And there's more, but for some reason my chat it like expires at a certain limit, so I can't see who all was there before.
We hit new
But,
numbers.
yeah,
That's all it's
because-
hit the 3
Did we
dots
really?
and go to participants.
It's cool.
You can see that.
But yeah, so thank you guys all for joining us. And one last thing. Our Love Up Lightsaber affiliate is in my link tree in the bio. So if you want to purchase a lightsaber from Love Up Lightsaber, make sure to go buy one there. They are, in fact, better than a stick. Thank you all for joining us. May the force be with you.
Always.